Today we're going to look at Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, or Trials and Tribulations for short, the third game and the final part of the original Phoenix Wright trilogy. The game was once again directed and written by Capcom employee Shu Takumi, and to fully understand some of the events I'll brief on in the game, it's recommended that you catch the review for Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney and its sequel Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All. Now remember how in the Justice for All review I mentioned a couple of guys Shu Takumi worked with for Resident Evil 2? Well, let's focus on this guy. Hideki Kamiya, whom you know well for games such as Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, Okami, Wonderful 101 and Bayonetta, joined Capcom around the same time Shu Takumi did, and they had desks near each other. Kamiya had been asking Takumi for a voice role since Justice for All, and in the end Takumi decided to let Kamiya be the Japanese voice of Godot, Phoenix's rival in the game. Another fun fact, Godot's design was influenced by Rutger Hauer's character Roy Batty from the sci-fi film Blade Runner. Takumi also wanted Trials and Tribulations to be the final game in the Phoenix Wright series, as he felt Phoenix had been fully explored as a character. But, well, you know what happened next. While most of the cases take place in 2018 in Los Angeles and totally not Japan, the first case actually happens in 2014. In the first case you play as Mia Fey, a rookie defense attorney on her second trial having to defend some poor unfortunate student accused of murder. This case runs through the basics of the game as well as establishes some of Mia's ideals and tactics which would be inherited by her protege and our hero Phoenix Wright. Like the other games in the series, Trials and Tribulations has sections where you explore different areas to talk to people and gather evidence. This evidence can then be used in court where Phoenix would need to prove his clients not guilty. Facing off against Phoenix is the mysterious coffee-loving prosecutor Godot, who appears to openly hold a grudge against Phoenix, calling him trite over the course of the game. Trials and Tribulations consist of 5 cases, with the first and fourth cases taking place in the past. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. Trials and Tribulations' greatest aspect would have to be its story. The game ties up events from the other 2 games masterfully, and also chooses to explore some of Phoenix's history as well as Mia's. The game manages to implement these stories while staying somewhat consistent to information that we already know from the previous games. Even the second and third cases of the game are related to the overarching plot, with a certain detail from the third case being instrumental in the fifth case. Trials and Tribulations ties up a lot of these loose ends, and the story had me hooked from start to finish. Combine that with the game's music, and you've got yourself a winning horse. Being able to play as other characters in the game was also quite refreshing as well. While you did take control of Maya briefly in Justice for All, Trials and Tribulations has you playing as Mia for a couple of cases, as well as Phoenix's rival and friend Miles Edgeworth for a section of the game. Seeing people in evidence from their perspective was quite a welcome change and certainly kept the game fresh. With that though, not everything in the game was perfect, so we'll explore what didn't go so well with the bad. In all honesty, there isn't too much wrong with the game either. The formula of if it ain't broke, don't fix it really applies to this series, and one thing I felt Trials and Tribulations fell a little short on was new features and mechanics. While you can argue that playing as different characters is a new feature, the gameplay elements while playing as them remains the same as if you were controlling Phoenix. Then again, I do appreciate the emphasis the game has on its story over gameplay, and the lack of new features may well have been due to the limitations of the Game Boy Advance hardware at the time. I felt that at some times the game can be pedantic on revealing new information, especially during court when some statements would need to be pressed twice to bring up new information, and that sometimes the appropriate evidence won't work unless specifically presented at the revised statement. But aside from that, I can't really fault the game. So with that, it's time I give the opinion. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, in my opinion, is the best game in the series. The story was engaging, and it tied in with characters and events from previous games. Being able to play as other characters was an absolute treat, and it was fun seeing things from their perspective. The game's music was memorable and handled very well. The only gripes I really had was, despite all this, there wasn't anything new in terms of gameplay mechanics, and the game could get really picky with how you get extra information, especially when it came down to presenting evidence in court. But other than that, Trials and Tribulations is definitely a game to play, though you may need to play the first 2 games in the series to fully enjoy it. So with that, it's time for my rating. Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Trials and Tribulation gets a Psycho Lock out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.